So welcome to the second episode, but the first episode of Questionable Audio.
Do, nameless, royalty-free singing that has no bearing in actual music. We're all musicians.
I have a question, though. Do we still have an intro?
I think we do. Y'all ready for that? It's the show. Where the intro goes. We don't have an intro yet, but we're doing the best that we can because it's the internet and everything happens faster than we can think. So we didn't have time to do one.
Okay. So what did you do today?
Oh, it's funny that you ask me that, Joe.
Do tell.
Well, apparently, the Ford Focus has this feature that hasn't been around since the earlier models. The vintage Ford Focus has these really cool features of not working anymore, not shifting, just not. Just you're just gonna stay in first gear the whole time. It's kind of like 10 miles an hour. 15 miles an hour. Yeah, so that was happening. That was an exact representation of what happened.
That really sucks.
Yeah. So I had to take it in. I'm hoping that it is one of two things. No, I'm hoping that it's nothing at all. It's like a mistake. That maybe, oh, yeah, didn't you hit that little button there? What's that button do? Well, that's the button that causes it to be okay. So I'm hoping that... well, how much will that be? $2. Okay, that's cool. I can hang with that. So that's what we're hoping for.
That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
But most likely it's going to be either what you told me earlier. It's option one could be that something really expensive failed, and option two is that you might have done it yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, apparently, there are wires inside of the car. No, not wires as in, I know what you're thinking. Wires, electricity, right? No, there are marionette wires inside of the car where you turn little knobs and there's a lever that pulls, and then there's this little animal inside that runs in a wheel that generates electricity. No, there are literally little cables in there that cause everything to work like like a puppet. Jim Henson is inside my car right now going like that.
And you decided to try and fix it?
No, well, I thought, well, hey, it can't be too hard. I looked it up online, and I got this little thing here, and apparently my AC, when comes on, but I can't change it from the vents to other things. Well, there's a little tension wire that normally comes undone. It's like I looked it up on YouTube how to fix it, and apparently a 12-year-old British child taught me how to do it. So I thought, well, if a 12-year-old British child can do it, I should just open it up and check it out for myself. So I opened it up, checked it out, exactly what I thought was messed up, put it back in, and I'm hoping that process was not what messed up my car. So tune in next time to find out what it actually was.
I have a hard time believing that you trying to fix the climate control messed up your transmission.
That would not make sense at all.
I'm not a car person at all. I have a very fundamental understanding of the way cars work, as in you put the key in and it goes.
Oh,
and that's about where my knowledge ends. But I do know that the transmission is usually, on most models, separate from the climate control. So...
What? Oh.
I don't know.
That sounds like complete nonsense, Joe. Let me just stop you right there. Everybody knows that the temperature of the inside of the car is directly related to the gears shifting automatically.
Yeah.
In the car.
I don't know. Aaron's become quite the car expert, though, because her car keeps dying, so maybe she knows.
Yeah. Apparently it's a very common problem with that version of, which is why it was discontinued, mainly because of the 2006 Ford Focus that was coming out.
Her car has a common problem called failing.
Oh, no. What happened?
What went first?
What didn't happen?
Power steering 4 times?
Power steering.
4 times.
Now, steering is kind of important in vehicles, I would think.
So is the water pump. That went too.
Now, are you just steering like, oh my goodness, just violently steering like a maniac?
Maybe a little bit.
It's like, I have to turn all the time over here and turning on. Steering is kind of a normal I mean, it's the only function of the. You steer a lot of the time in cars.
A fair amount of your time is spent steering.
It's like, what failed on those tires? The roundness of them. Because it's kind of essential. Did you think you would do better job in future models? We'll get that steering down in one of these other models. I don't know.
Do you want to know what I did today?
Oh, yeah, yes. Because the second part of what I did is very tragic.
What's the second part of what you did?
I interacted with AAA.
Oh, yeah. There's that too.
Oh, you know what? Because I'm trying to be more positive, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I called AAA to get my car towed to the repair shop. And they picked me up and got me there. 6 hours later. But it wasn't like, oh, we'll be there in 5 minutes, and then they came 6 hours later. The entire process took 6 hours. Going here, going there, going there. Oh, where you at? Oh, my goodness, I don't know. If only there were a way to digitally find place. Oh, I know. Oh, there you are. Oh, okay. Well, I can't drive into that area. What? I can't. You can't drive there? Of course not. I drive for a living, but I can't. I can only go into certain places. And then we get there. And, that's what happened.
That's what happened in my brain today because I did my taxes today.
Oh, taxes.
Yeah. I'm 100% self-employed, and that just makes it a joy.
Really?
Yeah. It's not overly complicated. It's a little bit complicated. I don't understand it.
Taxes?
I mean, in general, I understand the concept, but it's complicated, especially when, I'm sure it's complicated for everyone, but when you have an employer that just sends you a paycheck every 2 weeks, and then at the end of the year, you have all this nice little stack of paper, and you get a form, and you fill it out, and then taxes. And sometimes you get a return because, you get some money back because too much was paid in. That's great. Sometimes you don't. With me, it's like, whatever that thing is that you were doing earlier. We'll get a close-up of that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep, except that was my brain. Because that's just how it goes. And, yeah, so it was a ball. Lots of numbers, and I'm dyslexic, so that didn't work out too well.
I
But
made $13.
you made $13?
Yes.
And
You see, the government, it's like, oh, we guys, they had my cash. So they were like, hey, we're going to give it back to you. Oh, that's cool. $13.
I have to send a rather substantial check in to
More
the
than
government.
13, just a little bit more than $13, I would imagine.
Add a couple zeros.
Oh.
But anyway, in random places.
Yeah.
But then,
here and a zero there and a zero there.
but then, we did something pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Because
Tell me what that is, Joe.
he didn't have a car, and I did.
Yeah.
So we drove out to
Mexico. Mexico was so funny. I don't even know what to say.
Apparently, somebody's had a long day. You look like you have something to add to the conversation. Oh, just feel free to pounce in
You
it.
can officially go to questionableaudio.com. It's officially yours.
Oh, really?
There's nothing on it. Do you want WordPress?
As of now, you can go to questionableaudio.com.
It is just that easy when you hire
people.
Boho. Fox Design.
It's like, I would like to go to what you said, but I would also like a Squarespace endorsement. So, right now, if you would like, if you'd like to, if you'd like to go to Squarespace, just enter. I can't even get it out. I think so.
I don't think I've ever seen
not
you
even that
cry
funny.
from laughing.
This happens all the time. It sadly does. I can't even get it. It's not even that funny of a joke. Was it?
Should I sum up? If you want to go to Squarespace,
You know what did this though? I said
Mexico.
Mexico. That's not funny. That shouldn't have made a joke. That wasn't even a joke.
It was more of the interrupting.
Mexico. Hilarious. I don't know what you say. But yeah, I can't even say it, like thinking of it again. So we went to Mexico.
Oh man! Thank goodness for editing.
Yeah, really. Boop. That whole section, that's the only part that makes it online. Man, you see those guys that were like laughing for no reason. He hates like Mexican people or something. I don't even know. Man.
It's Mexicans. Oh my goodness!
So there were a couple of so squarespace.com, just enter the code word. That would have been so funny if I could just get it out.
Just enter the code what? Enter the code QA.
No, I was going to very obviously enter someone else's code to like our show, but it's like obviously like just enter the code Nerdist. And it would have been hilarious if I would have just said it off the top of my head. Yeah, just go to squarespace.com and enter the code word. As if I own the planet. It's like, yes, yeah, you know, this is our special code, Nerdist. Just enter the code word Rogan. It's just obviously what it is.
And we'll not see a dime of it.
Yeah. But man, does it sound official.
Wow.
So yeah, questionableaudio.com. Check it out. It's pretty awesome.
I need some water after that.
Mexico. Yeah.
This is my squirrel mug. I don't know if you can see that there. This is for Julie.
I don't even know. It's
So anyway.
round like my head.
Don't drink now. Now is the wrong time to put liquid in your mouth.
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
That's my slogan.
Yeah.
You know what I always say? Now is the wrong time to put liquid in your mouth.
That makes me think of
.com.
one of my favorite
Can we get that website next?
hashtag once upon a time in a faraway land. Yeah. It's like Tommy Lee Jones had a terrible, like just not a very big part in, this was hilarious, but I can't remember the name of the movie either. Apparently I'm going to see now.
So there's a movie.
But he goes, if you have something to say, now would be a perfect time to keep that to yourself. That's the only thing he said for the whole time that things are happening. He's like, if you have something to say, now would be the perfect time to keep that to yourself. Like, awesome. It can be yours. A friend of mine who will remain nameless was having a hard time because she was trying to direct her fans to go to ebxnation.com, and people had trouble spelling it. I won't tell you who that was because I would like the Elsie Binks band to remain nameless.
That was from Captain America, the first Avenger.
That's exactly that. Yeah, that'd be a good time to keep.
Also, when you quote that line or when you type that line into Google,
yeah,
the first result is How do you motivate yourself?
I've just had an idea.
So after your car broke down,
Yeah.
I had to come pick you up from the shop because it's close to my house. That's not why I did it because I'm a nice person, but I picked
Because
you
I owe you my life. Yeah.
up and lots of money. How do you think I bought all this stuff?
Yeah. Favors.
So anyway,
Yeah. Wasn't the song you were thinking.
I also just scrolled up on the list of things that we were going to talk about today, which is in a nice Google Doc.
So nice.
And I scroll up to the top, and the first thing I see is there's a bubble in the corn.
Now there's no way
So
that
that's
even makes any sense at all.
Okay, so
Questionableaudio.com. Check us out. It's a thing now. It's official. No, but continue.
so after I picked you up at the car repair place because I had a car and you didn't,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out
in
how many
there.
ways I can say that as passive aggressively as
Hey,
possible.
remember when you had a car before?
and now you don't. Anyway, so we drove out to this cool place in Royal Oak to listen to some really cool speakers. Now, obviously, as you will see in a little bit, I'm a bit of a speaker hog. I kind of have a
Are
obsession.
you into speakers, Joe? Is that a thing?
No.
Huh.
So I like speakers. I'm a speaker guy.
Joe is what is commonly referred to in the industry as a speaker whore.
Yep.
With a W.
And I build them, I buy them, I sell them, I trade them, I smell them.
He has made like the coolest monitors that I've ever used, and then after we installed them, he bought another set of monitors. I was like, "Who? What did you buy? Didn't we? How did that?"
It's a problem.
It's okay.
But we went to go listen to the new S series of speakers by Adam Audio, which is a German company, and we like the German
It's
speakers.
a German company. Sometimes they make the speakers.
Sometimes they don't. But this time they did, and there's 5 new speakers in their product line.
5 new speakers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And apparently this was their first set of speakers that they released in like 7 years or something like that.
You know why that is? Because their speakers were so good, they didn't need to.
Well, I'm sure they would like that you said that.
Yeah,
but I
they
think
would
it's
like-
true. I mean, they've had some pretty standard things. I mean, they're kind of they're on, they're as close as you can get to NS10 territory as far as pretty much everybody's. You can find those pretty much anywhere. And it's the was it the A7s and the A77s or something like that? They're the 2-way and then the 3-way things. I think they call them 2.5-way. Whatever. We'll get into that later. But anyway, those are pretty popular, and you can kind of find them anywhere. I'm getting more glaring looks from. She has to listen to this all the time, so sorry. This is old news. But anyway, what did you think?
Well, I thought, first off, when you look up this place online, like, remember we're going to be showing you pictures like this picture right here, of like the studio itself, which was, what was the name of the studio?
Royal House Recording.
Sometimes I forget the names of important things. Sorry. Yeah, really cool place. Looks amazing online. So when we pull in, we go into the back door, and then we're in a garage. The speakers were set up in a garage, and I was like,
In a basketball court.
basketball court / garage. The nicest garage / basketball court that I have ever been in. But it was a garage nonetheless. So I was like, is this going to be the whole thing? But no, it was really cool. It's like, no, this is just the first room. Then we let you into the amazingness of our studio. It was pretty cool. It was very impressive. But I was worried that I was going to go there and then be so sad because like, oh, this stuff, oh, these studios we're doing. Like, visit a lot of studios. Just like hashtag AaronGTV, and you'll see all the studios that I hang out in. And I was like, oh man, it's going to be sad because it's this new place and it's like going to dwarf everything we did. But it made me feel really good about the stuff that we're doing too.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, these were everything from their, little two-way speakers to big three-way, wall soffit mounted, whatever jazz. And yeah, I was really impressed. Honestly, I was most impressed by the little one.
Yeah.
The smallest in the line, which is called the I can find it. Yes, SX2 or something like that. It's just a two-way, 7-inch, I think, 7-inch woofer and a little tweeter, and it was really impressive. They handle an obscene amount of power for a small little speaker. I think he said 300 watts RMS or something.
Yeah, I believe it was 300.
And one of the important things to keep in mind with those numbers is it's not necessarily about just being able to play a little box really, really loud. But there's transient information in natural music before you compress it. And those transients can easily take up 10 times the power that you're using when the transients aren't there.
Yeah.
So your music is working, going along, and then there's a snare hit. That can easily require 10 times more of the power. So that, going from, what is that, 30 to 300 watts, right?
Sure.
30 times 10. So if you think, 100 watts, well, I'm listening at 30 watts, and then 100 watts, that's more than double. That's more than enough to give me that peak. That's like nothing. So having 300 watts available to do that means that when you play them at the same level as you're normally listening to, those peaks are uncompressed. And when the drivers can move that far, push out that much air, they have enough excursion to do that, you get a much more natural representation of what's going on before you compress. If you've got a low-powered set of speakers and you're playing them at their max, it's going to be basically impossible to hear what your compressor is doing if you're using a compressor, because the speaker itself, the motor structure, they're heating up, the voice coils are compressing. It's called power compression. And it can happen to the amplifier. The amplifier can run out of steam. The crossovers cannot, not be able to take the input level to that. And so it's all...
I think there might be something wrong with me.
It's very possible. The was it the crossover part?
It was just everything that you're saying with a straight face.
And all you can think of it.
Well, I'm experiencing a sarcastic remark about every little thing. And it's as if I'm not saying any of these things. I'm sitting here, so I'm actually, but it's like associating everything with every other thing.
You should put annotations on
put
everything that you were thinking.
No.
But anyway, so basically, a ton of power in a little box that can actually handle it. You don't play it any louder. You could, but you'll get better results listening at a lower level because you're going to get a much more realistic impression.
You would
of what's going on.
say if you had a studio garage with a basketball hoop. And I know a lot of people were there because they wanted to see the bigger and the better. The problem with the bigger and better speakers is that they were like tens of thousands of dollars at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So I know everybody else is like, well, we're doing these ones here, and these are the ones we start with, but then listen to these giant things over here. But when they would come back to the small ones, I'm like, man, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would be. I mean, that's realistically what I would be using also, because we have some really big speakers that already do kind of what I want already. So, but, I mean, these little guys here, it's like, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Do you want to do our little speaker tour?
Speaker tour. Yeah.
Sweet.
Definitely.
So check this out. This is my Bob Barker impersonation. We're here in Wellington Studios, and I just figured we would take a quick look at the monitoring situation that we're using here. It's slightly ever-changing, but this is what I've been using for a little while, and figured we'd take a quick look. Littlest first? All right. Well, littlest is probably over here. The little keyboard workstation. These are Focal CMS 40s, and they're kind of the baby of their line, but they're fantastic. Substantial amount of low end, and they are absolutely ruler flat when measured. They are fantastically flat, so they're a really solid reference point for the little B rig over here. So I'm going to move over to the desk, and I probably do the majority of mixing on the big speakers, but we're going to move up to the next largest. So these little guys here are KEF home stereo speakers, and they are coaxial. So it's just a little 5-inch driver, tweeter in the middle, and they're just hooked up to the hi-fi, so they make kind of a nice reference point for home stereo listening. A lot of dummy checks happen on those speakers. And we got the KRK 6000s, which are the old, they use the Focal drivers in these as well, which I really like. They don't have a lot of low end in them, which is kind of nice because it makes you focus on everything else and not get overwhelmed by the bottom end. There is a sub hooked up underneath the desk. Oh, there's a sub hooked up underneath the desk for when I need it, and that's on this button right here. I don't know if you can read what that says there, but that's the drop the bass button. So you just hit that, sub's on, and now it's off again. So there you go. But then we carry on to the primary mixing. Probably happens on these guys in the wall here, which are my custom LEM speakers, and they're named after the LEM, which took people to the moon, and I think that's super cool. So they got a cool name.
Jump off bridges.
I don't know what that is.
They all gather together and jump right off of the cliff.
Ah.
Little furry animals look like squirrels and beavers. We found out that they didn't actually do that. Movie magic, a lie.
Oh, well, these aren't a lie. They're flat from about 28 hertz up to 25 kilohertz. Three-way, 210s, and they're tri-amped. It's all Crown amplifiers in the other room over there, and that was my goal, to make a ruler flat, low phase shift, low distortion, linear set of speakers as a good reference point. So that's what I do the majority of mixing on, and then everything else kind of bounces around between these other guys. The hi-fi over here is patched into the patch bay, so I can take my Pro Tools outputs and listen to it on the, a whole myriad of other little home stereo speakers that are laying around here. And there's some old tannoys in the corner there that get a lot of use as well. We can add a close-up of those later if anyone cares to see. So that's pretty much what we do here at the Wellington Studios.
So now you know. That just happened just like that.
So,
especially when you did that thing.
Yeah, that thing was
like
really
whoa!
special.
Man, it's the armadillo.
Oh, the armadillo is my favorite part. Yeah, I'm glad that happened. So, do you have a favorite speaker?
I do.
What's your favorite speaker?
Well, I can't really say that I have a favorite speaker. But the first
That was
speaker-
totally contradictory. Do you have a favorite speaker? Yes.
I do.
What's your favorite speaker? Well, I don't really have one.
Well, because I don't want the other speakers to feel bad. But the first time that I noticed the difference between 2496 and standard CD wave, which is 4416.
Yeah.
I almost forgot that. Sometimes I forget important things. And then the difference from that to MP3.
Mm-hmm.
And like lame MP3. I'm talking about like how is it the best compression of MP3 is lame? Why couldn't it be called awesome or good? But yeah. But I noticed I was using the MK. What was I using? You had to tell me what they were.
They were the 824s.
Yeah, and then
Good old fashioned, the old ones, the original 824s, not the
yeah.
the reissues are great too. But
And in this really cool studio, I remember the guy was bragging on him, and I popped in. I was like, "Wait a minute! Like, do you hear that?" And then, no, because everybody was deaf. But it's like, and then I was A/Bing them, and so I could actually hear the holes, like the parts that I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
I started to hear like zeros and ones, and that's when I started that. It's like, man, it's real, but it's not real. And there's some versions that are like tiny little beeps. They sound like this. Did you hear that? No, of course not, because you don't have the speakers here. And it's completely unhearable. But yeah. So those are problem. I mean, I like the Yamahas. Yeah, I think I'm naturally drawn to them for some reason. Like we got the JBL, the very common like JBL. They're doing this thing is that all you do, you hit this button here, and then it will tune to the room, and it will understand digitally. And then, so then we did that whole thing, and then we had it all up in there, and everything was ready to go. And then we plugged the Yamahas in, and they worked, and it was great. It's like, oh,
those are the HS50s, right?
yeah. I was like, oh, cool. So that was kind of nice. So, but to say one, I mean, I really like yours.
Well,
So
there
it's
you go.
like, they're really cool. And yeah, and it's
No, they're good. They're a good baseline for sure.
yeah, it kind of makes me want to go and A/B them to other things so I can like critically hear the
Well,
difference.
we're arranging that sometime, and if you want to be a part of doing something like that, send us an email, questionableaudio@gmail.com. And
At least we think.
no, that's legit. That's set up.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you already
questionableaudio@gmail.com. So send us an email.
Exactly.
Say that you wanna be a part on that. You want to be a part of that. You want in on it, and we will make arrangements to bring these into a studio with some other competitors, and we can all listen and blow things up. Have a good time.
I kind of want to make an ad for it about how cool your studio monitors are, but from the perspective of someone who knows absolutely nothing. It's like, we took circles and we put them inside rectangles. The latest in wiring and tin, plastic things, and little red lights and beeping smooth wood that was put together with glue.
That camera just flashed something on the screen. Is that important?
I hope not. It seems to be going okay.
Okay.
I love how, like, this is the dark side over here, and you're all like, and I'm over here like, bah, 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 bah. Notice how I did that? Yeah. There are like 3 people out there that know what I just did. Okay. And they're like, what? We know Star Wars. But then they're like 2 people. No, he sung the tune wrong.
I need another squirrel hit.
It's probably Bonnie, and she's probably laughing really, really high. Like this.
So her laughter is the leftover summon difference of a MP3 to wave conversion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Glad we had this conversation.
So you can also email us at questionableaudio@gmail.com if you want to check out the MP3 test that we put together a couple years ago with my dad, who will be featured on the next podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And he has a very, very cool listening MP3 test that you do in your own studio with your own gear. It's all self-explanatory. You get a nice little sheet to log everything, and it's a really cool way of testing your gear and your ears.
I just imagine your dad with a microphone going,
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, see, he definitely generates his own tone sweeps. That's just the kind of guy he is.
And him doing the THX sound with just his voice.
Yep. It's that was actually the Tuvan throat singing. That's what they used to make that sound.
There'd be all these voices, but they're just your dad with a straight face.
Yep.
Straight face.
Into a Shure SM58.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. But anyway, I like those 824s a lot. I remember the first time that I heard them was in the studio, and I believe they were playing Back in Black, AC/DC, which I'd kind of be okay if I never heard the song again because it got a little overplayed in my opinion. Still a good tune though, and you're crying, aren't you?
If I do edit this out, it's like, man, all of a sudden, Aaron's face got all shiny. It's sheen. It's just, yeah.
It's really hot in the studio.
Man, it's so hot. My eyeballs are sweaty.
But anyway, Back in Black is like a surprisingly good sounding track. I mean, everybody knows it, but it's a punchy, good sounding.
It's back and it's like, whoa, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Oh, there he is. But now he's in black. It starts the intro, intro, and it's like, wow! This is this guy. He's there, and he wasn't there before. The way that he is now,
Wearing black.
But
anyway, I was pretty blown away by them.
It's like you never heard the song before. Hey.
Yeah. So those are cool.
Good deal. I completely forgot what we were talking about. But
yeah, that's okay.
I'm looking at our notes, which you can't see, and then there's this picture. I'll show it to you. It's ridiculous. It's like so severe. Anyway,
you should probably scroll up so that it doesn't have to haunt your dreams anymore.
Won't do that. Oh, yeah. Here you go. I could zoom in with the power of technology. So, check us out at questionableaudio.com and also reach out to us on Twitter, questionableAUD. Ask us some questions. Ask me a question.
Ask me a question.
Those people who know us. Actually, you can literally ask me about anything. I will give you an answer whether I know anything about it or not. So, yeah.
Mexico.com.
Yeah. Just go to Mexico. Oh, yeah.
Just go to squarespace.com and enter the code Mexico.
So we're setting up our Twitter right now. And it's like who of these people are interesting? There's a who cares button that says follow 30 and continue. They don't even give you the option to not do it. How about I just not do it? No. Just follow 30 and continue. Well, whatever. It's a that's literally what the button is.
All right.
Cool. So, yes, back to the Mackies.
So anyway, we listened to a lot of cool speakers today.
Yes.
Well, we listened to 5 new cool speakers. Then we came back to my studio and listened to my speakers. And I kind of liked mine better. Nothing against the Adams, but mine were kind of cool.
I think part of it, too, is that, like, I'm so used to listening to your speakers now.
That's part of it, sure.
And I really like them. I mean, yeah.
Well,
I hate saying, because you're right here and you made them. So it's like, oh, I love your speakers. They're just so cool. But it's like, man, when I started using them, it's like, oh, I have to do an album now. Whoa. I never had these tools before. If you know anything about the music that I've done, if you go listen to it, it's like, I could have done so much more if I wasn't using like the essentially car speakers that I was mixing on. It was really terrible. In fact, the monitors that I was using didn't even have a name on them. They were like, "Here, these are done. Just, Dave, we didn't put a logo on these. It's okay.
They're done.
Just take them." Just no.
Well, that brings up an interesting point because you mixed an album. You mastered an album. You did a lot of stuff on basically what most people would consider garbage.
Yeah.
I mixed a few projects on speakers where my left and right were not the same speaker. They were very, very similar.
It's like, wait, I can make it okay. Wait.
Exactly.
Okay.
But they were not the same.
If I do the Vulcan symbol, it's all right.
That's essentially what I had to do. And obviously, we could talk for hours about the implications of the error and how that's wrong on so many levels. But I don't know why I said so many levels like that. But
so many.
So many levels. But sorry.
Why did you just Victoria's Secret?
We should definitely cut that part.
No, that should definitely go on the internet. And Joe Giese, like you've never seen him before, wearing the latest in Versace design.
But anyway, totally lost my train of thought. Mexico. No, but there's a lot of reasons why that's horrible and why you should never do it that way. But a lot of hit records were mixed on essentially crappy speakers.
Yeah.
So that brings up the whole point of, why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? Why,
Well, that's a good question.
What do you look for in a set of speakers that you're mixing on? Because listening is a whole separate game. That's purely subjective, and so is arguably mixing, but listening is completely subjective, and there's no rules. That can be whatever you happen to find appealing at the time. I have different speakers that I listen to different genres of music. Like, these are my rock speakers, these are my jazz, So what do you look for in when you're sitting down to do a mix, whether you're mixing movies or music?
Well, one of the things that attracted me to even the Mackeys and all those other things is that I had more space to put things, and for it to be more specific and deliberate frequencies that I could be using. And I didn't realize, I thought that, it's like, audio just works a certain way, and then you just run out of bytes. And it's, no, you're using just garbage speakers, and you can't even hear, you're filling up the cup already with uselessness. So if I would have had a larger palette, or a larger canvas, if you will, then I could have put more detail for someone to find. And now, especially since people are kind of getting away from over compression now that the curtain has been pulled away and people are going to finally start, maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Once that has kind of gone away, it's like, hey, loud, 10. The people are going back to dynamic range being
Thankfully.
a thing. Yeah, and I think what's happened is movies are doing it, because you can't be hitting 10 with your music when you have an explosion that's supposed to happen, or a jet engine is supposed to fly by. So
Absolutely.
A lot of musicians are making music to go to picture specifically, and that changes the game. Entirely. So I want to be able to paint that way. I want to be able to have something that's going to reproduce exactly what I'm looking for. Just like if you're drawing or you're an artist, there are times when you have to zoom in on something and do really fine work in Photoshop. But that doesn't mean that you look at pictures that way. So it makes perfect sense to have, when I'm in my car, I want to listen to music this way because there's a road happening. and there's a bunch of other things that are happening. I'm not in a perfect environment. Or if I'm like at the gym, or because I go to the gym all the time, you know. But if I'm at the gym and I want to listen to music to block out things, and I want it to be compressed, or I want things to be compressed because I need to be able to put them down and for it to exist in the environment that I'm at. Well, I'm in a studio. I need that, the audio version of what those little, you know, soldering tweezer things that'll hold with a little magnifying glass hooked up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have. So I'm not looking for anything else. But now that I have that gauge, I look at all speakers that way if it's going to give me something like that.
Yeah, so the ability to be super critical.
Yeah.
Which arguably, I mean, that was the design goal for these big ones that I built, to have ultra flat frequency response, but also low distortion, high power capability for what we talked about earlier, those transients. These things handle a lot of power, and they sound great when you're not diming them because of that. They really have that headroom.
Yeah.
Dynamically within the mechanics of the drivers themselves, but also the power amps driving them. And the gain stage of setting them up from the monitor controller, which we talked about a little bit earlier too. So that's real important stuff too. But yeah, that ability to zoom in on things, and it's as much of a skill of your ear, but you also have to have the tools that give you that resolution. If you're listening on something that clouds all that up, it doesn't matter what your ears do, you won't hear that. I'm also of the opinion that that's not always necessary to make a good mix. You don't need those things, but if you're the type of person that wants to go in and have the control on that level, you need the tool that lets you hear it.
Yeah.
You know, you need a room that lets you hear it. You need a room that isn't artificially making certain sounds linger longer than others, or no crazy resonances where you just don't hear the 70 hertz tone because you're in a null, or you hear too much 70 hertz because you're in a peak. You know, you need that too. But if the speaker doesn't do it, it ain't happening, period. You know, so it really kind of starts there as far as I'm concerned. All the converters these days have a stellar frequency response. Some, yes, are better than others maybe, but the speaker is really where it's at as far as I'm concerned. That's your big tool.
Yeah. I really want people to take that to heart. It's like, there's sometimes you go into a studio and it's like it doesn't sound the way that it is. I mean, there are lots of times when I'm at I'm at the sound shop in Macomb, and I go in there, and Kevin Wesley Williams is one of the engineers there. Well, he likes his stuff to be flat, so people will come in thinking their mixes are really good, and it doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Wow, that doesn't sound that way in my speakers as well," because you're listening to it through this like sub craziness, or you're listening to it thinking that you are just listening to stereo, like recreational music.
But he listens to that mix and he goes, "Wow, that's good low end,"
because he's used to what that is. And again, like way back to the mixing thing, I had to tune my ears to what should be heard by looking at graphs. I spent a lot of time looking at spectrographs and readouts to make sure that my stuff was looking the way that everything else was. And at the end of the day, like, my stuff sounded ugly to me naturally. So I had to tune my ear to find like the beginning of this whole nonsense, what started it all. After I finished my album, I knew how to do it right, but it was too late to do it on my own album. So everybody else's album that I worked on sounds better than my stuff.
Well, that's why you do a second album.
That's why we got to do another album.
But it was after that you discovered your favorite. Well, I wouldn't say favorites now, but the ones that you really dug after that were the Mackie HRE24s.
Yeah,
the A24s. They're super popular. A lot of people use those. They weren't the first, but they were one of the first common studio monitor that had a passive radiator in the back,
Yeah.
which is part of what gave them. I think it's a 6-inch cone in the tweeter, self-powered and everything, but there's a asymmetric kind of oblong passive radiator in the back.
I want to say it's 8. I want to say 8-inch.
Yeah, but it's an oval. It's an oval driver,
Okay.
which is really kind of cool. And they pulled some cool trickery, like the power amp is mounted outside
Yeah.
of that driver. So as that driver's moving, it's actually pushing air across the amp, so it's helping cool it, which is really kind of neat. It's cool. And they're just really stellar sounding speakers. So what was your, like, what did you really dig about those?
What I liked about them is I could push them and they wouldn't crap out on me. Like if I don't like to listen to music loud all the time, but I like to listen to it at it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know what the dBs are. I don't know what it is, but I know that I would have to raise it up to a Aaron listening volume. And then I wouldn't mix that way. I would bring it down, and then I could tell where I was going, make my adjustments, and then bring it back up. Because otherwise, my ears would get tired.
That's a great technique.
I know a lot of people who mix loud, and you can tell that they're mixing too loud because there are frequencies that they should be catching, and they're not. And then their mastering guy has to be the one to fix it.
Yeah.
That's like, darn.
Yeah, ear fatigue is.
Ah.
That's one of the biggest kind of measuring sticks that I put up against speakers is listen to them loud for a little while and see if they start grabbing your ear, because you can learn after a while those are the sounds that fatigue my ear, and they might be a little bit different than yours. They're different frequency ranges, maybe. Happens to everybody, but it might be in slightly different areas. But I can, in a very short period of time, I can go, okay, this is, I can't listen to this for hours on end.
No.
And I can't own a set of speakers in the studio that I can't listen to for hours on end, because I do.
No.
So one of the benefits to all of those models that you saw earlier was that, well, for me anyway, they were very not fatiguing. They all still have, and I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect speaker. I think they're all going to have little
characteristics,
something little in there that just over time your ear gets annoyed with that. I don't know. I don't think there's such a thing as the perfect speaker that anyone could listen to indefinitely.
Just like the perfect microphone.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for the next episode.
Oh,
All about microphones.
it's probably going to change your life.
Yep. It's certainly going to change ours while we decide what to talk about.
Yes.
But I think it's real important to have a flat standard. I mean, film is mixed on a standardized, like there's a it's not THX, right? But there is a standard room / speaker / performance calculation out there, right? Like it's a
Yeah, because you have to do it. You have to mix your sub separately, and then you're mixing a lot of stuff in surround, which is at least 5.1.
Yeah, I mean there's delivery method, but the frequency response and like that's all kind of dictated. It not necessarily strictly, but there's kind of a baseline out there that says this is what you should all be using, because that's the delivery method. Like that's what people are consuming it as.
Yeah.
And I get that that's different with music because people go to a theater, and theaters are all built to some type of standard. They're all using different components, but in a certain path. But people listen to music on anything. So maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe people should have designated listening rooms that they could go to that adhere to that.
Yeah, well,
but
I know that's
still
a big
think,
deal.
But I still think that control rooms in studios, there should, there are no laws about it, obviously, but there should be some type of a standard, just so that there's somewhat of an even playing field, so that if you go to a new studio as an engineer, you at least have a fair chance of getting to know the room quickly. That's why NS10s became so popular, is because people could just carry them with them. So no matter where you went, you could at least have your own speakers there.
No.
But if there was just some sort of standard, not everybody needs to buy my speakers and have them, but the speakers need to perform this, 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 and this, and this. And then you put that in a box, and now you've got a stand. And then you can have a million other things that sound different, because I totally believe that there are different sounds for different applications. There's different speakers for mixing different genres, even, if you want to look at it that way. But certainly different applications. But there should always be a fallback.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going for in my mind. What I wanted my fallback to be was these, and that's where that design came from. I'm not trying to say that these are the best and that they're perfect in every way. They're clearly not, but they're kind of my fallback, and I always check on those and make sure, okay, it works on there. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So
I think we just talk a little bit about, just for a little bit, headphones, because you have a favorite brand of headphones, and I hear a lot about those. Actually, like that is a go-to for a lot of people. Mine are very silly, so I'll tell you what mine are last. But yeah,
these are Audio-Technicas, which Audio-Technica is super popular headphones in general, and they're all good. But these are the ATH M30s, and they reissued them a couple years ago, and I don't like them as much. So I always tell people, get the M30s, but find them on eBay and find the ones that have the little metal bit on there, because the new ones are all plastic. The new ones still sound really good, but these are fantastic. They don't play very loud. They don't isolate super well, but they are the nicest sounding, most comfortable headphones I've ever bought. And I mix with these live. I use them as a live reference and in the studio all the time. And there's just something about them. They're inexpensive. You can get them for $40 probably or less. And they're stellar.
Now, I liked I started out using Sony's.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I only stopped using Sony's because when I had to buy my own, they were really expensive. Like, I found out the set that I had were, I can't even remember what they are. The MDR is like, I think, one of the standards, but then there was an HD line.
Yep.
And so I had those, and I think they were almost $300. And I was like, yeah, I will probably be getting anything else. So I then decided to change my ear to a different type of headphone.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched to the Monoprice monitoring headphones, which are just a little bit under $300. And I wrote a blog on I did a article about it, which is essentially me copying and pasting a bunch of other things. But one of the ones are the Monoprice. I think they're the 8343s or something like that. But if you look up Monoprice monitoring headphones, it's ridiculous, and they should not sound as good as they do. But I've been using them for a few months now, and I'm really used to the way that they sound. I'm happy with like how clear they are, how well they can handle, and how well the audio doesn't disappear at like varying volumes.
I'll have to give those a listen.
You have to try them out. They're probably going to change your life.
Yep. No, I'm a big fan of using headphones for mixing, because it's a great way in a small, non-professional studio or non-huge commercial studio with $1 billion of financing behind it to listen without your room.
Yeah. You don't have to worry too much about, you don't have to worry about treatment of the room or anything like that. You don't have to worry about disturbing your neighbors and stuff like that.
Yep.
But
it's a great
also,
mix check.
As something is touching your ear. So it's like they can't be my only method. Because, man, I mean, I had the ones, and I've like crazy big ears apparently. But the ones that fit over the ears are so much nicer to live with.
Yep.
Because after a while, it doesn't matter what. It's like, oh my goodness, my ears, elephant crazies. Yeah.
Elephant crazies.
Elephant crazies.
So on that note,
yeah.
You want to tune in next time for our episode on microphones?
Yes. Tune in with the tube of your television. Don't touch the dial. Actually, if you want to do us a favor, everybody says this, but people don't understand how important it is for you to subscribe and to like videos. Because if you don't subscribe and you don't like them, then you just don't make the algorithm. And
I guess not.
yeah, it's just so bizarre. If you don't, then Disney wins. Yeah. If you don't like or subscribe, the
So like or
terrorists
subscribe.
win. Yeah.
Send us questions at questionableaudio@gmail.com. Go to our website, questionableaudio.com. Check it out.
Yep, or at questionable AUD on all forms of social media, and that's probably going to change your life.
Mexico.
Y'all ready for that stuff? Here's the show. When the intro goes, we don't have an intro yet, but we're doing the best that we can because it's the internet and everything happens faster than we can think. So we didn't have time to do